The interrogation chamber. The prisoner's tale. The metal chair groaned under Admiral Marcus Blackwood's weight as he shifted, his weathered hands still bound behind his back. The interrogation chamber was cold, sterile, and designed to break spirits. Admiral Blackwood had seen worse. Across the table, interrogator Kethvar's reptilian eyes studied the human with predatory interest. The creature's scales shifted from deep green to amber, a sign of frustration that Blackwood had learned to recognize during his 3 months of captivity. "You still refuse to explain," Kethvar hissed, forked tongue tasting the air. "Your species was defeated. Your fleet scattered. Your world's under our control. Yet you sit there as if you have won some victory." Blackwood's steel-gray eyes met the alien's gaze without flinching. "Maybe that's because we have." The reptilian's claws scraped against the metal table. "Impossible. The galactic hegemony crushed humanity. Your Admiral Marcus Blackwood, you, led the final desperate charge and failed. Your surrender was broadcast across every system." "Was it?" Blackwood's weathered face cracked into a slight smile. "Tell me, Kethvar, how many of your kind died in that final battle?" The interrogator's scales darkened. "Casualties are irrelevant. We achieved victory. 300,000 of your finest warriors," Blackwood continued, ignoring the deflection. "An entire generation of your military elite. Gone. And for what? To capture one old human admiral who walked into your trap willingly. The first lesson." Kethvar's tail lashed behind him, betraying his agitation. "You speak in riddles, human. Your species has been conquered. Your resistance is broken." "Broken?" Blackwood leaned back, chains rattling. "Let me tell you about broken, reptile. 3 years ago, when your hegemony first encountered humanity, what did your intelligence report say about us?" The interrogator's eyes narrowed. "Primitive. Violent among yourselves. Technologically inferior. A minor threat easily eliminated. And yet here we are, 3 years later, and you're still trying to understand what went wrong." Blackwood's voice carried the weight of experience. "Your analysts studied our history, didn't they? Saw how we fought each other for millennia. Civil wars, world wars, genocides. You thought you understood human violence." Kethvar's silence was answer enough. "The problem," Blackwood continued, "is that you only saw the surface. Yes, we fight each other. Yes, we're violent. But you never asked the important question, why are we still here?" The reptilian's scaled brow furrowed. "Explain." "Evolution, Kethvar. Natural selection. Your species evolved from ambush predators on a world with few competitors. Efficient killers, yes, but you never had to face extinction. Humans? We climbed to the top of the food chain on a death world filled with creatures that could kill us with a single bite or claw. The human difference." Blackwood's eyes grew distant, remembering. "We didn't just survive by being stronger or faster. We survived by being smarter, more adaptable, more ruthless when necessary. We learned to fight not just for territory or resources, but for the right to exist." The interrogator shifted uncomfortably. "Your point?" "My point is that you never understood what you were fighting. You saw our internal conflicts and thought we were weak. But those conflicts? They weren't signs of weakness. They were training." Kethvar's scales flickered between colors. "Training for what?" "For you." Blackwood's smile was predatory now. "Every human who has ever lived has been shaped by 10,000 years of warfare. Not just physical combat, but psychological warfare, economic warfare, information warfare. We've been fighting an evolutionary arms race against ourselves since before your species discovered fire." The reptilian's claws dug into the table. "Impossible. No species could sustain such conflict and survive." "Not just survive," Blackwood corrected. Thrive. Because here's what you never understood about humans, we don't just fight to win. We fight to learn. Every defeat teaches us. Every victory shows us our weaknesses. We've been preparing for something like you for our entire existence. The first engagement. Kethvar's tail had stopped lashing. Despite himself, he was listening intently. But your first engagements with our forces were disasters. Your fleets were scattered, your colonies overrun. Were they? Blackwood's eyes glittered. Or were we learning? You see, Kethvar, humans have a saying, the best defense is a good offense. But we have another saying that's more important, know your enemy. The interrogator leaned forward. You're saying you lost deliberately. I'm saying we sacrificed pawns to study the board. Blackwood's voice carried a chill that made the reptilian scales ripple. Every engagement you won, every colony you took, every human ship you destroyed, it was all data. We were learning your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. Weaknesses? Kethvar's laugh was a harsh hiss. The hegemony has no weaknesses. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. Are you? Blackwood's smile was sharp as broken glass. Then why are you so afraid of one captured human admiral that you've spent 3 months trying to break him? Why are your fleets still patrolling human space instead of moving on to easier conquests? The silence stretched between them, heavy with implication. Because, Blackwood continued softly, somewhere in the back of your reptilian brain, you know the truth. You didn't defeat humanity. You just made us angry. The warning. Kethvar's voice was barely a whisper. What are you saying? I'm saying that everything you think you know about humans is wrong. We're not the primitive, chaotic species you encountered. We're what happens when evolution shapes a species for 10,000 years of constant warfare. We're what happens when natural selection favors not just the strong, but the adaptable, the cunning, the absolutely ruthless. The reptilian scales had gone pale. You're trying to frighten me. No, Blackwood said quietly. I'm trying to warn you. Because in about 6 hours, you're going to learn what humans are really capable of. And by then, it will be too late. As if summoned by his words, a distant alarm began to wail throughout the station. Kethvar's head snapped up, his enhanced hearing catching frequencies beyond human range. What is that? He demanded. Admiral Blackwood's smile was terrible to behold. That, my scaly friend, is the sound of humanity coming home. The interrogation chamber's lights flickered as something massive impacted the station's shields. Through the reinforced viewport, the first human warships began to emerge from hyperspace, their hulls painted with the scars of 1,000 battles. The real war was about to begin. The underestimated species. The Council of Fools. 6 months earlier, Galactic War Council chambers. General Harrison Knox sat quietly in the massive crystalline chamber, his weathered hands folded as alien voices echoed around him. The Galactic War Council had gathered to discuss the human problem, and Knox was the only representative of his species present. Warcast Brutic of the Orcish Dominion slammed his massive fist on the obsidian table, tusks gleaming under the chamber's harsh lighting. Pathetic weaklings, he roared, his voice carrying the authority of 1,000 conquered worlds. These humans cower on their single world, squabbling among themselves like children. Why do we waste time with diplomacy? Knox remained silent, observing. The general had learned long ago that silence often revealed more than words ever could. Around the table, representatives from 12 major galactic powers nodded in agreement with Brutic's assessment. High Priestess Zalthara of the Ethereal Collective floated above her crystalline seat, her translucent form shimmering with contained energy. The humans show promise in their technological development, she said, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. But their constant internal conflicts prove they lack the unity necessary for galactic significance. Unity? Brutic's laugh was like grinding stone. They cannot even agree on how to govern their own planet. Their history is nothing but war, genocide, and destruction. They are animals, not civilized beings. The quiet observer. Knox finally spoke, his voice calm and measured. You've studied our history, then? The chamber fell silent. Every alien I turned to the human general, who had remained quiet throughout the 3-hour proceedings. Of course we have, snapped Ambassador Velcris of the Serpentine Coalition, her hood flaring with irritation. Your species has been at war with itself for its entire recorded history. Over 5,000 documented conflicts in the last millennium alone. Your people kill each other over resources, territory, ideology, even skin color. You are chaos incarnate. Knox nodded slowly. And yet we're still here. Brudek's tusks clicked in amusement. Barely. Your population wars have nearly destroyed your world multiple times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, environmental devastation. You survive despite yourselves, not because of any strength. Interesting perspective, Knox said, his tone neutral. Tell me, Warcast Brudek, how many wars has your species fought in the last 1,000 years? The orc's massive shoulders straightened with pride. 47 glorious campaigns of conquest. Each one a masterpiece of strategic planning and overwhelming force. 47, Knox repeated. And how many of those were fought against opponents who could actually threaten your homeworld? Brudek's eyes narrowed. Threats are eliminated before they can endanger the Dominion. That is the mark of superior strategy. Knox turned to the ethereal collective's representative. High Priestess, your people are known for their wisdom. In your long existence, how many times has your species faced extinction? Zalthara's form flickered with confusion. Extinction? The collective has never faced such a threat. Our diplomatic and technological superiority ensures our survival. Never, Knox mused. Fascinating. The uncomfortable truth. The chamber's temperature seemed to drop as Knox stood, his movement deliberate and controlled. You see, honored representatives, that's where you've made your first mistake in understanding humanity. Ambassador Velcris's serpentine form coiled defensively. What mistake? You've studied our wars as if they were symptoms of weakness. But you've never asked the obvious question, why are we the only species in this galaxy that fights itself so ruthlessly and yet continues to grow stronger? Brudek's massive frame shifted uncomfortably. Elaborate, human. Knox walked to the chamber's viewing wall, gazing out at the stars. Every species in this council has achieved galactic dominance through superior technology, natural advantages, or overwhelming force. You conquered weaker opponents and established your empires. But what happens when you face an equal threat? The silence stretched uncomfortably long. You don't know, Knox continued, because you've never faced one. Your species have been so successful that you've forgotten how to struggle. You've forgotten how to adapt. You've forgotten how to fight when the odds are against you. High Priestess Zalthara's form pulsed with agitation. And humans somehow remember because you fight amongst yourselves? We remember because we never stopped learning. Knox turned back to face the council. Every human conflict has been a laboratory of warfare. We've tested every form of combat, every strategy, every weapon. We've fought in every environment, under every condition, against every possible opponent. The warning ignored. Brudek's laugh was dismissive. Fighting your own kind hardly prepares you for facing superior galactic powers. Doesn't it? Knox's smile was cold. Warcast Brudek, your species conquered 47 civilizations using the same basic strategy, overwhelming force and superior technology. You've never had to adapt, never had to innovate, never had to find new ways to fight. The orc's tusks ground together. Because our way works. Against species that fight conventionally, yes. But humans have been unconventional since we first picked up rocks to throw at predators. We've spent 10,000 years learning to fight dirty, to use every advantage, to turn weakness into strength. Nox's voice carried the weight of prophecy. You see primitive violence where you should see evolution in action. Every human war has been natural selection on a massive scale. The survivors aren't just the strongest or the smartest, they're the most adaptable. Ambassador Velcris's hood flared wider. You speak as if your species poses some threat to the established order. I speak as if my species is exactly what it appears to be, Nox replied. The product of 10,000 years of selective pressure favoring those who can fight, adapt, and survive against impossible odds. The chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence carried a different quality, uncertainty. The declaration. Brutic stood, his massive frame casting shadows across the chamber. Enough philosophy. The Orcish Dominion claims the Sol system. If humanity wishes to join the galactic community, they may serve as laborers in our asteroid mines. Nox's expression didn't change. And if we refuse? Then you will be eliminated as a minor inconvenience. The human general nodded slowly. I see. And the rest of the council agrees with this assessment? One by one, the alien representatives nodded or voiced their agreement. Humanity was too weak, too divided, too primitive to pose any real threat to the established galactic order. Nox gathered his documents with deliberate care. Then I suppose there's nothing more to discuss. The Terran Defense Force will prepare for your arrival. As he moved toward the chamber's exit, High Priestess Zalthara called out. General Nox, surely you understand that resistance is futile. Your species cannot stand against the combined might of the galactic powers. Nox paused at the doorway, his hand on the crystalline frame. High Priestess, there's something you and your allies might want to remember about humans. What's that? We've never lost a war where our survival was at stake. We've lost battles, campaigns, even entire theaters of operation. But when our backs are against the wall, when it's fight or die, humans have a perfect record. Brutic's roar of laughter followed him into the corridor. Primitive boasting from a primitive species. Nox's final words echoed through the chamber as he disappeared into the shadows, we'll see. 3 hours later, every major galactic power received the same message from Earth. Humanity respectfully declines all territorial claims on the Sol system. Any unauthorized ships entering human space will be considered hostile. This is your only warning. The galactic war had begun, and the aliens still didn't understand what they were really fighting. The tipping point. The Battle of Kepler Station. 4 months after the War Council, Kepler Station, Outer Rim. Captain Lucas Steele watched the tactical display with the calm of a man who had accepted his fate. Kepler Station, humanity's furthest outpost, was surrounded by the largest alien fleet ever assembled. 12 different species, 600 ships, and enough firepower to glass a planet. His defenders numbered exactly 47 vessels, most of them repurposed mining ships and civilian transports hastily fitted with weapons. The smart move would be to surrender. Lucas Steele had never been accused of being smart. Captain, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the Insectoid Collective flagship. They're demanding our surrender. Steele's weathered face showed no emotion. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the nightmarish form of Hivemind Nexus 7. The creature's compound eyes reflected the bridge lighting as its mandibles clicked with mechanical precision. Behind it, hundreds of identical drone warriors stood in perfect formation. Human vessel, the creature spoke with the voice of 1,000 minds, you are outnumbered 15 to 1. Your destruction is mathematically certain. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift. Steele leaned back in his captain's chair, studying the alien with interest. Nexus 7, isn't it? I've read your species' tactical analyses. Very impressive mathematical models. The creature's mandibles clicked faster. Mathematics do not lie, human. Your defeat is inevitable. Maybe, Steele admitted. But there's something your mathematical models might have missed. Impossible. The collective has calculated every variable, every possible outcome. Your species' capacity for warfare has been measured and found inadequate. The human factor. Steele's smile was sharp as a blade. Have you calculated for the fact that humans don't fight fair? Before Nexus 7 could respond, Steele cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Rodriguez, initiate Protocol Omega. Sir. The young officer's face paled. Protocol Omega hasn't been tested in actual combat. The casualties will be acceptable, Steele finished. We're not here to survive, Lieutenant. We're here to teach these aliens a lesson they'll never forget. The bridge crew exchanged glances. They all knew what Protocol Omega meant. It was a tactical doctrine that violated every rule of civilized warfare, every galactic convention, every principle of honorable combat. It was also purely human. All ships, Steele spoke into the fleet communications channel, this is Captain Steele. You all know why we're here. You all know what happens if we fail. These aliens think they understand human warfare because they've studied our history. They think they know how we fight. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over his small fleet. They're about to learn the difference between fighting humans and fighting like humans. Protocol Omega is now in effect. Show them what we really are. The swarm responds. Nexus 7 watched from the bridge of its massive bioship as the human fleet began to move. The creature's compound eyes tracked every vessel, its collective consciousness calculating probabilities and outcomes. The humans are advancing, reported Drone Captain 47. Their formation is unusual. Indeed, the human ships weren't forming any recognizable battle pattern. Instead, they seemed to be scattering randomly, each vessel taking a different vector toward the alien fleet. Panic response, Nexus 7 concluded. They lack the discipline for coordinated warfare. Begin the attack. The alien fleet opened fire with devastating precision. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled the void between the fleets. The first wave of human ships disintegrated under the overwhelming firepower. But something was wrong. The destroyed human vessels, Drone Captain 47 reported, they contained no life signs. They appear to have been empty. Nexus 7's mandibles clicked with agitation. Impossible. Humans do not employ drone technology on this scale. Captain, another drone called out, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the human fleet. They appear to be overloading their reactors. The truth hit Nexus 7 like a physical blow. The humans weren't trying to win a conventional space battle. They were turning their own ships into weapons. Evasive maneuvers, the creature screamed, but it was too late. The fury unleashed. The first human ship reached the alien formation's outer edge. Instead of firing weapons, it simply rammed straight into a crystalline Empire destroyer. The impact triggered a cascade failure in the ship's fusion reactor, creating a miniature star that vaporized everything within a kilometer radius. More human ships followed, each one a guided missile with a human pilot at the controls. They ignored the alien weapons' fire, ignored their own casualties, ignored every instinct for self-preservation. This is Captain Martinez of the UES Retribution, a voice crackled across the communications channel. Thanks for the target practice, Bugs. See you in hell. The converted mining ship plowed through 3 alien escorts before detonating its reactor core in the middle of an Orsish battle cruiser. The explosion chain reacted through the alien formation, destroying ships that had survived 100 battles. Nexus 7 watched in horror as its mathematical certainties crumbled. They're sacrificing themselves for minimal tactical advantage. It's inefficient. Sir, Drone Captain 47's voice carried a note of something the collective had never experienced before, fear. The human strategy is working. We've lost 30% of our fleet, and they're still coming. The lesson learned. More human ships pressed their attack, each one a kamikaze missile guided by a human mind. They used tactics that no civilized species would consider: ramming attacks, reactor overloads, deliberate decompression to create debris fields. Why won't they surrender? Nexus 7 demanded, its collective consciousness reeling from the unprecedented carnage. They're dying for nothing. Captain Steele's voice suddenly filled the alien flagship's bridge, broadcast on all frequencies. Because that's what humans do, you insectoid freak. We die hard, and we take you with us. The captain's ship, the UES Defiance, had somehow penetrated the alien formation center. Its hull was scarred and burning, its weapons destroyed, but it was still coming. You want to know why you're going to lose this war? Steele's voice was calm despite the chaos around him. Because you still don't understand what you're fighting. You think this is about territory or resources or galactic dominance. The Defiance's engines flared as it accelerated toward the collective flagship. This is about survival. And humans have been perfecting the art of survival for 10,000 years. We don't fight fair. We don't fight honorably. We fight to win, and if we can't win, we fight to make sure you lose too. The final calculation. Nexus 7 watched in fascination and horror as the human ship bore down on its position. The creature's collective mind processed thousands of calculations per second, but none of them provided an answer to the tactical puzzle before it. Full power to forward shields, it commanded. Prepare for impact. The Defiance struck the flagship's shields with the force of a small asteroid. The barriers held for exactly 2.3 seconds before failing catastrophically. The human ship's momentum carried it deep into the bioship's hull before its reactor core detonated. As the flagship began to break apart, Nexus 7 felt something it had never experienced before: respect for an enemy. Signal the fleet, it ordered as emergency klaxons wailed throughout the dying ship. Full retreat. Immediate withdrawal from human space. Sir? Drone Captain 47 was confused. We still outnumber them. Victory is still mathematically possible. No, Nexus 7 replied, its compound eyes reflecting the fires consuming its ship. Victory was never possible. We just didn't understand the equation. The creature's final transmission reached every ship in the alien fleet, warning to all collective vessels: humans do not fight as we understand fighting. They fight as if death is preferable to defeat. Recommend immediate strategic withdrawal and complete revision of tactical doctrine. As the alien fleet limped away from Kepler Station, they left behind a lesson that would echo through the galaxy: never underestimate a species that views death as just another weapon in their arsenal. The real war was just beginning. Part 4, The Revelation. The Strategist's Dilemma. 2 months after Kepler Station, Crystalline Empire Command Center. Prime Strategist Velthor's crystalline form pulsed with frustrated energy as he reviewed the battle recordings for the 1000th time. The Empire's most brilliant military mind had been tasked with understanding the human threat, and what he discovered defied every principle of galactic warfare. Impossible, he muttered, his voice resonating through the crystal matrix that formed his consciousness. The mathematics simply don't support their victories. His aide, sub-strategist Keelneth, materialized beside him in the command center's holodisplay. Sir, perhaps the humans are employing some form of unknown technology? A cloaking device or temporal manipulation? Velthor's form flickered with annoyance. No, Keelneth. I've analyzed every sensor reading, every energy signature, every scrap of data from our encounters with human forces. Their technology is crude, their ships are inferior, their numbers are laughably small. Then how do they keep winning? The Prime Strategist's attention returned to the holographic display showing the Battle of Kepler Station. He watched again as Captain Lucas Steele's forces turned their own ships into weapons, sacrificing themselves to achieve victory against impossible odds. They're not winning, Velthor realized suddenly. They're losing. Every single engagement, they lose more ships, more personnel, more resources than we do. By every metric that matters, they're being systematically destroyed. Keelnetha's confusion was evident in his shifting energy patterns. But sir, they control more territory now than when the war began. They've forced 3 major powers to withdraw from human space entirely. Exactly, Velthor's form brightened with terrible understanding. They're losing their way to victory. The human paradox. Colonel James Mitchell stood in the observation deck of the UES Prometheus, watching the debris field that had once been the Serpentine Coalition's 3rd Fleet. His uniform was torn and bloodied, his face showing the strain of months of constant warfare. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Crystalline Empire. They're requesting a parley." Mitchell's eyebrows rose. Parley? That's the first time any of the galactic powers have requested negotiations. Shall I respond, sir? Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the shifting geometric form of Prime Strategist Velthor. The alien's crystalline structure pulsed with what Mitchell had learned to recognize as intense concentration. "Colonel Mitchell," Velthor's voice carried harmonics that human ears could barely detect, "I have been studying your species' tactical doctrines for months. I have one question." Mitchell crossed his arms. "Go ahead. Are you insane?" The human colonel's laughter was sharp and bitter. "Probably. You'd have to be insane to fight a war like this. Then why do you continue? Your casualties are catastrophic. Your resources are depleted. Your infrastructure is crumbling. By every logical measure, you should have surrendered months ago." Mitchell's expression grew serious. "Because surrender isn't an option." "Of course it's an option," Velthor's form pulsed with frustration. "Every species surrenders when defeat becomes inevitable. It's basic logic, preserve what you can for future generations. And that," Mitchell said quietly, "is why you're losing. The terrible truth." Velthor's crystalline matrix flickered with confusion. "We're not losing. The Empire has superior technology, superior numbers, superior strategic position. We are winning this war." "Are you?" Mitchell gestured to the debris field surrounding them. "Your 3rd Fleet is gone. Your 5th and 7th Fleets have been withdrawn for restructuring. Your alliance with the Orcish Dominion is fracturing because they can't understand why you haven't crushed us yet." The alien strategist's form dimmed. "Temporary setbacks. The Empire's resources are vast. But not infinite," Mitchell countered. "Every ship you lose, every world you have to garrison, every fleet you have to redeploy to contain us, it all adds up. We're not trying to defeat you in a single decisive battle. We're trying to make you defeat yourselves." Velthor processed this for several long moments. "You're describing a war of attrition. But your species lacks the resources for such a conflict. Do we?" Mitchell's smile was cold. "You've studied our history, right? World War II, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, humans have been fighting asymmetric wars for centuries. We know how to make the enemy's strength into their weakness." "Elaborate." Mitchell walked to the tactical display, highlighting various star systems. "Every world you conquer, you have to garrison. Every shipping lane you control, you have to patrol. Every victory pushes you deeper into human space, stretching your supply lines, dividing your forces." Velthor's form pulsed with growing alarm. "You're using our own expansion against us." "We're using your own logic against you," Mitchell corrected. "You think like an empire. Secure territory, establish control, maintain order. But we're not fighting an empire. We're fighting a guerrilla war on a galactic scale." The strategic revelation. The Prime Strategist's consciousness reeled as the implications became clear. The scattered human fleets, the hit-and-run tactics, the seemingly random attacks. "Aren't random at all," Mitchell finished. Every engagement is designed to force you to make the same choice: commit more resources or abandon territory. And every time you choose to commit more resources, you become weaker overall. Velthor's form flickered rapidly as he processed battle data through this new lens. The Battle of Kepler Station, you weren't trying to hold the station. You were trying to make us commit our reserve fleets to a meaningless objective. Meaningless to you, Mitchell agreed. But incredibly valuable to us. Every ship you sent to Kepler was a ship that couldn't be used to defend your core worlds. The supply raids, the infrastructure attacks, the constant pressure on our communication lines. All designed to make you paranoid, to force you to spread your forces thinner and thinner until you can't effectively defend anything. The alien strategist's crystalline matrix began to shift to a deep amber color, the crystalline empire's equivalent of fear. You're not fighting to win territory. You're fighting to make us lose the will to fight. Mitchell nodded grimly. Welcome to human warfare, Velthor. It's not about being stronger or having better technology. It's about being willing to pay a higher price for victory than your opponent is willing to pay to stop you. The calculation error. Velthor's form pulsed with desperate energy. But the cost to your own species, millions of human lives, entire colonies evacuated, your industrial base in ruins, is acceptable, Mitchell interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of terrible certainty. Because the alternative is extinction. And humans have a saying, better to die on your feet than live on your knees. The prime strategist's consciousness processed this information with growing horror. You're willing to sacrifice everything for the possibility of victory. We're willing to sacrifice everything to deny you victory, Mitchell corrected. There's a difference. Even if humanity loses, we'll make sure you remember the cost of fighting us for the next 1,000 years. Velthor's form dimmed as he accessed long-term strategic projections. The calculations were devastating. At current casualty rates, maintaining the war effort would require mobilizing the Empire's entire military reserve within 6 months. The economic cost would cripple their civilization for decades. This is madness, he whispered. This is evolution, Mitchell replied. Every species in the galaxy has achieved dominance through superior technology or natural advantages. But humans achieved dominance on Earth through superior adaptability and ruthlessness. We've been selected for 10,000 years to be the species that never gives up. The inevitable conclusion. Velthor's crystalline matrix flickered with the terrible beauty of complete understanding. You're not fighting to win. You're fighting to ensure that victory over humanity costs more than it's worth. Now you're beginning to understand, Mitchell said quietly. Every battle you win makes the next battle harder. Every world you conquer makes your empire weaker. Every human you kill makes the survivors more determined. The prime strategist's form pulsed with defeated energy. The other powers, they need to be warned. The Orcish Dominion, the Serpentine Coalition, the Insectoid Collective, they all believe they can simply overwhelm human resistance. They can, Mitchell agreed. But the question is, will they still be empires when they're done? Velthor's final transmission to the Crystalline Empire High Command was brief and devastating: recommend immediate withdrawal from human space. Humanity cannot be defeated through conventional warfare. They have weaponized their own destruction. Continuing this conflict will result in Pyrrhic victory at best, total collapse at worst. As the communication ended, Mitchell turned back to the viewport. In the distance, more human ships were arriving, crude, desperate, and absolutely determined to continue a war they couldn't win. Which was exactly why they were going to win it.